All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Ruben Chavira. Ruben, welcome. So awesome to have you, man.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm enthusiastic to be here. It's my great joy.
You know, you and I, we have this mutual friend in Jesse Elder, and that's kind of how you and I met. Is like, you know, we're through Facebook, and you know, anybody that I find on Facebook that you know, because like when they show you who your mutual friends are, Jesse, between you and I, pops up as the number one, and that for me is always a really good sign, because Jesse and I, we go back about, well, let me see, we go back 12 years now since him and I first met. And I just naturally assume that anybody that shows up as a mutual friend between me and Jesse, they're my kind of people. And I have never had a bad experience when connecting with anybody that share a mutual friend with Jesse Elder and myself, and that's been true for us too. And you have a pretty awesome skill set and a pretty awesome what Dan Sullivan might call unique ability, God-given gift, whatever you want to call it. And you've been working with my wife, she was in a car accident several years ago, and she's been suffering from headaches ever since. And I just really appreciate the work that you are doing with my wife and stuff, because getting her some relief from that is a good thing for sure. And so I just want to acknowledge that before we even start having this conversation. And so what I'd like to do, Ruben, is you know, I'll start by turning it over to you so we can set a little bit of context, so we can let the listeners know a little bit about just who you are, and you know, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work that you do, Ruben, and also give us some of the backstory and how we got here, how you got into doing what you do, and we'll just kind of start there.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking that question. And so I live in El Paso, Texas. I've been here for almost 30 years, born and raised in Orange County, California. Oh. Yeah, Garden Grove area and Disneyland area.
Yep.
Really magical time growing up. I remember climbing onto the top of our rooftop and watching the fireworks go off at night from the Disneyland theme park. And so moved to El Paso when I was a teenager with my family, and had some interesting things happen to me along the way. And so for like the last 13 years of my life, I've had this really particular and peculiar interest in spontaneous healings. Mm-hmm. In the religious community, they would probably call them miracles. Okay. And how to facilitate those kind of experiences for people consistently to get results that are rare and unusual, especially for those people who have already been seeing licensed practitioners and specialists for years and unable to get a certain result, unable to shine at their full capacity, at their full measure. And so, yeah, the last 13 years of my life, I've been seeking out people who are able to facilitate those kinds of experiences for people, and I learn from them, have different internships with them. And so I've been able to acquire a unique set of tools and gifts that really allow the moving of upscale in our life, the experience that we're having, to be a lot more graceful and with ease.
Yeah.
And so naturally, I'm attracted and serve open-minded heart-centered, ambitious overachievers. And so that it just different kinds of people within that category. And yeah, what inspires me to do what I do is the gift that I have, and also having a heart for humanity and serving them. I believe my love for people, my love for my community, my love for my family and my friends allows me to show up a certain way as the answer. And so it's a real beautiful thing when you're able to do that, especially showing up high value regardless of the environmental factors going on in our life.
Yeah.
And so this kind of mindset and identity was shared and really impressed upon me by Seth Ellsworth, who is a good friend of Jesse Elder. And how I got introduced in with Seth Ellsworth is an interesting story.
Okay.
When I started getting into spontaneous healing and how to tap into that consistently, I was also going through some of Dan Sullivan's work, how it is easier to 10x your growth than to 2x. And also, I noticed a man named Joe Polish was alongside of Dan Sullivan a lot. And so I grew a particular fascination with both Joe and Dan. And years ago, I was like, man, that would be so awesome if I could be a part of Joe Polish's 25K group. This was like way back when. And so the focus of being geared towards growth led me to a certain group of people and community helpful entrepreneurs. And I ended up at a mastermind in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
At that specific time, this was 8 years ago, I was working in the oil field as a transporter, oil-based water on the production side and discovery side of oil, West Texas oil and some New Mexico oil. And yeah, wasn't really a full-blown businessman, entrepreneur in terms of knowing how that the strategy works in terms of being able to support myself and my family, my world. So yeah, I was in this mastermind I got invited to be a part of, and it was, I believe, Marcus Aubrey who was not able to give a discourse in this mastermind, who was at that time business partners with Joe Rogan.
Okay.
They were business partners with On It. And so I got to step into this room with really high performers in their business. And I got to deliver a talk how we can do less in our business and achieve more. Seth Ellsworth was in that mastermind group.
Okay.
And if for anybody who doesn't know Seth, he's a 6'10" white Mormon from Utah, extremely tall. And so that's where we first met, me and Seth Ellsworth. And a few years later, I was looking to move upscale with where I was currently at. And Seth Ellsworth had opened up a new program for a group of 12. And I was able to work with him and underneath him for a good year.
Okay.
and he taught a lot of identity crisis work, alter ego kind of stuff, kind of like how Clark Kent steps into the phone booth and comes out Superman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a really good experience for me in terms of um, being able to show up high value for people and get specific results for them in their lives.
Wow. Wow. So, um, is this kind of it was through this relationship with Seth that you started really discovering your own unique abilities and gifts? Is that how you started discovering them?
I think it was more Dan Sullivan. I went through his unique
Okay.
ability book, the unique ability book, and I defined my own unique abilities. So I was already pretty much aware,
Okay. Okay.
and um, becoming more aware and having certain awarenesses expanded. And what Seth really helped me to do was uh, the one thing that I knew I had to do, but wasn't able to get myself to do it.
Okay. Okay.
So that was a big deal. And it was all around our two greatest assets, our only two great assets in life to facilitating change. And that's identity and choices.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Seth really helped me to. Um, there was a part of that where I wasn't showing up um, in a certain way that yeah, just in a showing up in a useful way, in a
Yeah.
really meaningful way, and he really helped me to bridge that gap and do it in a way where it was effortless.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's interesting. I don't know when I first heard the term unique ability from Dan Sullivan, but I'm going to say it was probably 14, 15 years ago. And not too long ago, I found this document on my computer because, one of the things that Dan says is, if you're trying to figure out what your unique ability is, reach out to friends who know you well and ask them about it. And he gives advice on how to ask about
Mhm.
it. And so I had reached out to a number of people, Joe Polish being one of them, because I've been friends with Joe since 1997. And I can't remember who were the other people that I reached out to, but this would have been years ago that I did this, and I saved their email responses in a Word doc, and I've still got that document on my computer, and it does all of them talk about how I'm just so amazing at connecting with people, building relationships, building trust very quickly, all of that kind of stuff, and and it took some time to like really figure out, well, what do I, okay, if this is what I'm good at, that's great, but what do I really do with this, you know? And and now all these years later, we've made some progress in that department, and
Yeah.
and it's pretty cool because when we do, it's funny. My buddy Travis just this week, 2 days ago, sends me this book, U Squared, and it's kind of about unique ability. It talks about how when we just when we get to this certain point in our life where we just start figuring stuff out, our productivity skyrockets because we just get so good at using our gifts that we now do it in ways that frees up our time, that we become so efficient at doing it that it's just way more rewarding, it's way more fulfilling, and if we're entrepreneurs, it's way more profitable, it's exponentially more profitable. And and it's and I told Travis, I was like, man, Travis, I have been experiencing exactly what that book talks about for the last several years, and it just keeps on going, you know.
Yes.
And when we do really figure out, okay, what is our unique ability and how how can we best serve other people by using our unique ability and stuff? That's a powerful thing right there. That is a powerful thing. And
Yeah, yeah, it is. And what really got me excited when I was going through the unique ability was he mentioned once you have it dialed in, it will be a natural and effortless thing for you to attract the same kind of like-minded individuals who are geared towards that kind of growth, where 10x is easier and better than 2x.
totally, totally.
And then, yeah, and then okay, that's the concept. What would it be like if I could 100x effortlessly and naturally?
Yeah.
So, I mean, just taking that um, and widening it a little bit more, having some fun with it. Yeah. And I think that's one of the contributing factors of why we have a good, more than a couple of good handfuls of people connected, like-minded people connected on Facebook, similar friends.
Yeah, totally, totally. So I know you mentioned to me that I know there was at least one other person that you wanted to talk about and to honor, and I want to make sure that I don't want to gloss over that. So I want to make sure to do that. And so
Yeah, thank you very much. And so two of the people that have like really helped me spiritually, Aaron McKenzie and Paula Wicks, they have been super instrumental in helping me remember my true identity as a light worker and helping me to remember my path um, back to the throne room
okay,
of my father, which is super huge in terms of being able to help people because I'm a Jesus kind of guy and I look to him to how he facilitated healings really quick for people and the things that he did for people and um, his lifestyle. So yeah, they were super instrumental and are super instrumental as you know a part of who I am and how I operate. And also Brian Johnson, super instrumental in helping me to identify who I am being in current time through emotions, get like not the story, forget the story, and how our body never lies to us. Our body is always telling us the truth. And um, so, yeah, there was some really big pieces that helped me to shift really fast out of really long states of grief into enthusiasm and joy, sorrow, sadness, and grief, like in an instant,
okay,
enthusiasm and joy restored, and also fear, being able to shift fear in an instant into courage, faith, confidence, and also anger, knowing when anger shows up in my body and how to transmute that in a split second into forgiveness and able to take back my own authority. So that's what happens when we have like anger issues, like we give our authority away to people, our power. So reclaiming our authority and power, giving it back to ourselves.
yeah,
Um, that was super huge in terms of how am I showing up right now. So,
yeah,
and that's everything. Our how we are feeling, our emotions right now is attracting our next experience.
yeah.
Life doesn't give us exactly what we want all the time. It gives us who we are being.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I have, for example, tragedy happen in my life, it could be when I was 5, it could be last week. It could have been the tragedy could have been from my great great grandparents, and it will show up in my body. Um, here's something really cool. Like if you ever notice like a stutter pattern, going on, or when you notice stutter going on with an individual. They also blue for emotion that is active. A two stutter all the time, regardless of the language or the word. It doesn't matter what the word is. Sorry about that, Kevin.
That's all right.
So a two stutter would be apathy is active. A three stutter in an individual means sorrow or sadness is active. A three stutter, they have fear active. Four stutter is anger is active. So there's different clues that the body will give you in order not to know that there's something wrong, because we're coming out of that era of wrong and right. We're getting information. And so whenever we have a pain or discomfort, something that sorry, here I am.
That's all right. That's
Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
My phone's doing something really weird.
That's all right.
Okay, so just wanted to say, when there's a pain in our life or some kind of discomfort, that is a signal that there's a strength or a blessing waiting to return. And we get to activate that through the words and feeling coming out of our mouth.
Wow. Wow. That is really powerful stuff right there. I know, you've shared some of this with me privately when we were talking about my wife Lisa and stuff, and I'll tell you, and I'll say this here, and because it's the same thing that I told you when we were having one-on-one conversation. I said, it's one thing for my wife to be suffering almost 5 years later from the fallout of a car accident where she got rear-ended and stuff. But for an entrepreneur too, who is running a business of any size really, but especially like entrepreneurs in my world, a lot of them they run pretty substantial businesses, and if they are dealing with pain of any kind in their lives, that is a hindrance. That is a hindrance to them being at their best, being able to perform at their best, being able to run their company at their best. And when they can get relief from that, what can transpire, it can be, it can be absolutely mind-blowing what can happen when they don't deal with that kind of thing, And
absolutely.
And so I know that's what I wanted to, I wanted to bring you on here, because you have a gift in this area. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that would, I'm sure right now there's entrepreneurs listening to this going, okay, you know what? This is hitting home for me. And I really appreciate, Ruben. I really appreciate what you're sharing. I appreciate the way you show up. And so for those entrepreneurs, Ruben, who are feeling that way, and is like, man, Kevin, I just really appreciate Ruben. How can they find out more about you and the work you do, or how can they connect with you? What's the best way for them to do that, Ruben?
Yeah, so my email is backpocket and then profit spelled PROFIT @gmail.com.
Okay.
You can shoot me a email there. I'm on Facebook under Ruben Neal, Neal. And so those are the two best ways right now to reach out to me. Perfect. And I remember going along with what you said with entrepreneurs and being in pain. Just this morning, I heard Joe Polish say that what entrepreneurs want more in their life is more woo, more enthusiasm, more joy.
Yes.
And I don't think he meant like woo woo, like the woo kind of like stuff to get there. Like I'm thinking more like Ric Flair. Yeah, that's right. The Ric Flair woo in their life.
Yes.
And joy and enthusiasm. And this is our natural state of being anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we are able to transmute our pain, intuition, and joy and enthusiasm returns and comes online.
Yeah.
And so it's a big deal. When we're enthusiastic, our world is enthusiastic, our family is enthusiastic. It's a natural byproduct.
That's right. That's right. It's very interesting. I know, one of the things that Jesse told me a long time ago is, and what I really learned is like, how we show up is everything. Because people, they might not even be able to put their finger on what it is about why they like being around us. But I mean, man, me, for example, I love hanging out with Jesse. I don't care what we're talking about. I just love being around him. And I love the way that I feel when I'm around him. And I want to give people in my world the same kind of feeling. I want them just feeling that way when they're around me, when they're in my presence. And it's really this feeling of them being seen, heard, and understood is what it is. That's what I want people to have when they're around me. And people, like I said, they might not even be able to put their finger on what it is that they like or don't like about us, but they always have the sense. They always have the sense. They always have the feeling of, man, I just really like how I am when I'm around them. I want more of that, or I don't like the way it feels being around them, and I don't want to be around them. And
Yes.
and people can totally sense that, and and to realize that we can totally affect that by the way that we show up. And it's just and what an empowering place to come from, that what, I am just going to show up and I am going to be in service of other people. I'm just going to be of help. I'm going to be of service. I'm going to be of assistance. Anything I can do to help somebody, I'm going to help. And because it's pretty, it's pretty much impossible to feel bad when we are in service of others, because it just feels good being in service of others. And especially when we are in service of others who just appreciate us so much. I was hosting a group call on Zoom this morning for a group of entrepreneurs that I serve, and one of them is he's a long-term friend. I don't know, I've probably known him for 12, 13 years, and he was just reiterating. He's like, Kevin, I just want to let you know how much I love you and how much I just appreciate all you do for us. And it's like, you know what, man, that makes you feel good. And like I'm just like, I want more of that. I love hearing that stuff, and I love them too. And so
Yes.
this whole just being in service of others, there is a lot to be said for that, and we will just totally attract the right people to us when we show up that way and stuff. So, Ruben, any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
Yes. Okay, so having this fascination with spontaneous healings, and in the religious community, they would call them miracles. And sometimes that could sound like a loaded word to people, a miracle. The best definition that I've heard so far about a miracle came from Hal Elrod.
I love
From The
how.
Miracle Morning. Yes. And he said a miracle is any meaningful outcome that you believe is outside the realm of probability for you. Any meaningful outcome that is beyond the realm of what you believe is probable for you. And so, yeah, there are people that know how to do a lot of cool things, help people to be independent of allopathic means, and how, getting a diagnosis and being able to like shift that is a real treat.
Yeah.
And so every person is a miracle waiting for agreement. And
Yeah.
this is what we get to do for each other.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. Well, Ruben, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out and share it with a lot of other entrepreneurs. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.